Hey, are you struggling with objections in your sales process? Welcome to the real world. It's time to embrace those objections. You know, I've been in the sales world a long time, and I really enjoy working with salespeople on how to advance that sale, how to help their customer to accomplish what that customer really wants to accomplish in the first place. And one of the things that we see that's pretty much as natural as the sunrise and a normal part of the sales process is, of course, objections. And sometimes when we think about objections, we have this initial sort of guttural reaction that's like, oh no, objections. And I want to suggest to you that mindset is going to get you into trouble right from the very beginning. So in this series here, we're going to talk about how we handle sales objections. We're going to start with a mindset, and then we're going to get into some of the most common objections that salespeople regularly hear on the job. But I want to start with the mindset because the mindset is really critical. If you have a negative response when you hear an objection from a customer, you're probably not going to serve their needs as well as you can, and you're most certainly not going to advance that sale along. So let's start by looking at what goes on inside your own mind when there's an objection. Now, I'll begin here with an observation about a customer who brings up an objection. Let's suppose that we are deep into the process. We've been working with these people a while. They like us. We like them. It is all good. But then they bring up an objection that's a particularly difficult objection. It might have to do with the price or the terms or something about the product. Who knows what it's going to be, okay? So the question is, what is the most obvious observation that you can make about your customer while your customer is still standing there? And I would suggest that the most obvious observation you can make is that the customer is still standing there. And I say this from the perspective that if the objection were some sort of a deal killer, you would no longer be talking to this customer. Customers don't by nature have a tendency to look at it and go, hey, you know what, let me lay out all of the reasons why I'm not going to buy, and then I'm not going to buy. That's not typical buyer behavior. Customers, when they find that deal-killing objection, just tend to leave. Thank you, have a nice day. They're just gone. So if the customer is sharing objections, it means that the customer is still there. And if they are still there, by extension, it means that they are still interested. And by raising the objection in the first place, you need to interpret that as the customer saying to you, help me, help me. When you hear an objection, get the mindset right in your head that that is actually a request from the customer to say, help me. If you get your mindset right about the way that you receive that objection, then everything changes. You see, if I look at the objection as a negative, then I'm going to go into sort of this fighting stance here against my customer. And we're going to play a little is so, is not argument game. It's a schoolyard game. That's not what I want to do. If I see this as my customer saying, help me, now I'm not going to get argumentative. I'm going to become an advisor to them, a partner with them. We are going to work through this together and all in the customer's best interest. What it comes down to is this. A real objection indicates a real buyer. You show me a buyer without an objection, I'll show you a non-buyer. There's no question about it. A buyer who has an objection is a real buyer because every sales presentation that has ever taken place in the history of the world has always had an objection to it in some way, shape, or form. And even if the customer didn't verbalize it, that didn't mean it wasn't there. So we want to recognize that objections are normal, objections are natural, objections are expected, and objections are, most importantly, a plea for help. So when you can help your customer along those lines, you know what you get to do next? You get to change their world.